And right now, I want to welcome to the program editor of Officer.com, Frank Borelli is with us. Frank, how are you, sir?
Good as always, Cam. How are you?
I am good. Thanks very much for coming on the program. It's good talking to you. It's been too long.
It's always a pleasure.
So Charles Pierce has a column at Esquire in which he takes a look at the murders of these two Las Vegas police officers, the murder of a armed citizen who tried to intervene by these two, use whatever descriptor you want.
Idiots
And he
work.
says, we're family-friendly radio. Why are there not a million police officers on the National Mall right now today, demanding that the Congress and the rest of the political elite take even the most gingerly steps towards disenthralling the country from its insane devotion of firearms? Why are police officers not walking off their jobs in protest? Why are their professional organizations not raising holy hell about this? He says, spectacularly, some of these law enforcement officers are on the other side. Tragically, he says, the paranoid gun culture nurtured by the NRA, the Gun Owners Action League, and their pet politicians has leached into the law enforcement apparatus, especially at the level of the local sheriff's office. Put plainly, after the events of the past 5 days, any police officer, Charles Pierce says, who drives himself home at night in the family sedan with the NRA sticker in the back window is a traitor to the uniform and is demonstrating a profound lack of disrespect for the brother officers who were killed in Las Vegas for the crime of being cast in the role of some redcoats in the Bunker Hill fantasies of two murderous loons.
Well,
so, Frank, as the editor of Officer.com, I just have to ask you personally, what do you think of Charles Pierce's take?
I think I recall not that long ago a guy named Bloomberg saying that all police officers should go on strike until gun control laws got enacted by Congress. And I recall that on my own website and on our competitor sites, when it comes time for law enforcement to stand together, we are not competitors. We're brothers in arms. And we all told Bloomberg there's a reason why we don't do that, because we took an oath and we perform our duty and we do it with honor. And if he doesn't understand that, it's probably because he doesn't have a whole lot of honor. I happen to be one of the traitors that Mr. Pierce speaks of. You know, I'm an NRA life member, and I can't. I think that he's missing the point. I really do. You know, when we have sheriffs who answer to the voters and they stand up against their own state legislatures and say we're not going to enforce any new gun control, they're worried about what their voters want, not what the politicians want. When you have idiots, these people that they view law enforcement as oppressors, as tools of the elite or whatever they think, I think that's a shame. I think it's an issue that needs to be dealt with, but I don't think disarming law-abiding citizens, responsible citizens, citizens who respect the police and work with the police and are willing to back up the police if need be, and I think that was even the case here in Las Vegas, where you had a citizen who confronted these folks. I don't get where Mr. Pierce is coming from. I think he's beating an old drum, reiterating what some other people have said. It didn't work out well for them. I don't think it's going to work out well for him. So,
what are your readers at Officer.com saying, besides obviously expressing their condolences, asking what they can do to help the families of these officers who were killed in the line of duty?
You know, they're not saying much. That's why I don't understand some of these commentary folks that believe that police officers in general are all up in arms about gun control. Gun control itself is not much of a discussion in the rank and file and the operational ranks of law enforcement. You know, guns are a threat in the hands of the wrong people. They're a blessing in the hands of the right people. It's how it's been for as long as somebody's been wearing a badge. It's not going to change anytime soon. Cops get tired of being used as if we're pawns in somebody's argument.
Talking with Frank Borelli, editor of Officer.com, about this piece by Charles Pierce in Esquire. Police who support the NRA, says, are traitors to the uniform. You know, and what's interesting, if you read this piece, Frank, at the end of the piece, he updates, and he says, of course, there's always the traditional American response, arm yourselves to the teeth and prepare to make war on somebody here. And he links to a story during the Obama administration. According to Pentagon data, police departments have received tens of thousands of machine guns, nearly 200,000 magazines, thousands of pieces of camouflage and night vision equipment, hundreds of silencers, armored cars, and aircraft. So, I mean, I have to say, who all of a sudden sounds kind of paranoid about the police, if not Mr. Pierce in Esquire magazine?
But you know, the funny thing is, he talks about all of that equipment and all that ammo and all that stuff in the Obama administration. Those two Las Vegas police officers didn't work for nor represent the Obama administration or the current federal government. They work for the city of Las Vegas. How does attacking them do any good if you're worried about an oppressive establishment? I get confused by that.
Well, I think, you know, you're trying to read logic into the actions of
the illogical
madmen, and I'm not sure that and I'm not sure that that's possible. You know, I don't get the conflation of, you know, the daring and the sheer bravery of an entire generation of Americans, that founding generation, and what they did with the brutal murder and the cowardly murder of two police officers, and you know, equating yourself as some sort of American hero. I don't get that either. There's a lot that I don't get when you try to look at the possible rationale for this murderous behavior. I don't think you can find any rationale for it.
There's no rationale. There's people allowing their egos to be inflated, putting greater value on themselves than they have any reason to ever carry, and justifying behaviors that border on the insane. And they've got to find a way to not to feel guilty about what they know is obviously wrong. It's a shame to have seen it happen. You know, we in law enforcement, we mourn the loss of these two. We must mourn the loss of every officer every year, and it's a shame that some of them fall to people like this. Ambushes were a big problem a couple of years ago. I hope we don't see that come back again.
You know, I do too. I want to ask you about that because I did see a story yesterday that said officer-involved homicides, I believe, or officers killed in the line of duty up 38%. Over last year, and as soon as I saw that headline, I remember you telling me when we talked with you about this, because we talk about it every year when the crime statistics come out, and you talk about the fluctuation, the incredible variance in these numbers year in and year out. In
last year, and it sounds a shame to say it this way, we only lost 106 officers in the line of duty, and you say only 106, and my God, that's such a huge number, but that's actually very low. We average usually about 160. So for the numbers to be up 38%, it means we're kind of going back to what the 2012 numbers were, the 2011 to 2010. We're seeing not the low numbers that we had in 2013, but I can't remember, 2011 or 2012, we actually had a problem. There was the 4 officers in Lakewood that were ambushed, and then there was a couple of other incidents. We lost like 24 police officers that year just in the first 2 weeks of January, and they were almost all ambush situations. I really hope we don't see that coming back. It's going to make the job stressful enough. We don't need to be worrying about stuff like that. We have to stay alert for it, but we shouldn't have to deal with it as a reality coming at us. Talking with Frank Borelli, again, editor of Officer.com. Frank, always, I won't say enjoy talking about this subject. It's not a subject anybody enjoys talking about, but I appreciate your perspective and the perspective, again, from the first responders out there, who, as you say, you know, I think right along with the men and women in our uniform, you know, you talk about these guys and women not wanting to be political pawns for one side or the other. I think that goes for our members of our military as well. You know, these men and women who put on a uniform, who go protect us and serve us every day, you know, they're not pawns to be used by one side or the other. They are individuals who, again, are doing a dangerous job and deserve our respect, not deserve our whatever you want to call it. Well, they certainly don't deserve to be used as pawns, and unfortunately, politicians use them that way. You know, the frontline people in uniform, the men and women, whether they're law enforcement or military, all too often somebody speaks up and says, well, this is what they believe, and they never even ask them. And quite often what they believe, what their values are, radically different from what the quote-unquote leadership would lead you to believe. But it's always a pleasure to be here, Cam. Yeah, I'm honored to be on your show. Well, listen, I appreciate it. And, you know, it's fascinating that Charles Pierce wrote this whole column about why aren't these officers doing this. Did he ever reach out to you, Frank, to ask, you know, why do you feel this way, Frank? Why don't you feel this way? I'm just curious. You know, he'd write this entire column
Did you talk to one police officer, Charles, to get their perspective?
I never even knew who the guy was until today. He certainly didn't contact me, and I don't understand how people can spout those beliefs. If you look at polls that get done, even by the most liberal of organizations, the polls come back time and time and time again that say 2/3 or better. Usually it's 3/4, 4/5, 75, 80% of currently active law enforcement says, hey, gun control laws the way they are, fine. We need to enforce them better. You need to actually leave people in jail for the amount of time they're supposed to go to jail. You're actually supposed to use the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. Another Pierce that needs to leave, I guess. I don't know. Not a fan. I never heard of the guy.
Listen, Frank, as always, man, I appreciate you coming on the program and hope we can do this again soon.
Anytime, Cam. Stay safe.
You too, sir. Frank Borelli, editor of Officer.com.